Something hunts these mountains, shaped from myth. Formed by the spirit of the mountain man, he lives by the way he hunts. Born of the mountains, blood of the Indian, he survives by Hawken and longbow. He's alone, he's free, he's forged by the elements. Journey with the last of a breed, Sasquatch, Mountain Man. This season's been mixed for Mountain Man Laramy Sasquatch Miller. He's ridden the high country on the trail of the wapiti, the elk. The hunting has been hard, but he's brought his longbow to full draw, and his arrow has flown true. With his elk brought down, Sasquatch turns his attention to the world's largest deer, the moose. But a nickel's worth of percussion cap is the difference between 4 quarters in the larder and 4 hooves on the ground. Now it's the badlands and the high-bounding mule deer. Those snow-clad summits have always called the Sasquatch, but he's come down from them now to trek the badlands on the trail of the deer with very large and long ears. Those were the words of William Clark for the first mule deer famed mountain man John Coulter killed on the expedition of the Corps of Discovery. And Clark went on to call it a curious kind of deer with its round white tail ending in a black tip and its springing gait. Now Laramy Miller's ready to meet this curious deer himself. Laramy gets into range, then has to decide if this is the deer he truly wants.
I'm not really a trophy hunter, but I do like killing mature animals. I'm gonna sneak back out of here and keep hunting.
With the buck left to grow another year, Laramy makes his way back to his cabin. There's a chore that needs doing.
I had a bit of a blowout. I'm getting too big for my clothes. I cut a piece of elk skin. I'm warming up some hide glue. Got this piece of hide. And I'm gonna spread glue all over it. And I'm gonna glue it on there. Now I'll just let it dry and I'm good to go. Got my shirt patched. Should last me for another season.
Here in the mountains, it's not so much the fit that survive, but those willing to do what it takes to survive. The mountain man depended on many tools, from Hawken rifle to Newhouse No. 4 beaver traps to Green River knife. But when it comes to a mountain man's best friend, there is no substitute for his horse. They say a white man rides a horse till it dies. Then an Indian comes along, gets that horse back on its hooves, rides it another 50 miles, then eats it. But a mountain man was the equal to the Indian in the use he got out of his horse in harsh country. And there were times his horse was the key to his survival. Not for where it carried him, but for what it supplied. In dire straits, you slaughtered your horse and drank its blood. Then you skinned it and hacked it into meat for food to sear over the open fire. You shared what you had with your fellow mountain men and hoped that one would let you ride double when the morning came. buckskin mended, Sasquatch continues his hunt for the half-assed deer, as its Latin name Hemionus calls it. And the young doe he sees is a good sign, because bucks are sure to be near. Everywhere the does go, Laramy is sure to follow, hoping they lead him to the bucks.
We got a handful of deer over here. There's 5 or 6 different bucks, 2 different herds.
At last, a buck. But is it big enough for Sasquatch? This warm, dry weather makes for hard hunting, but under the looming shadow of an empty meat pole, Laramy's still not ready to settle for just any buck.
Bucks are starting to rut. They're all young bucks. I want to try to get something that's 4.5, 5.5 years old. So we'll keep after it. Well, I decided to come down out of the mountains and lose a little elevation, heading down into the badlands. I tell you what, this country, it's open, but it's rugged. There are lots of places for these critters to hide.
Lots of draws, lots of coulees, lots of pockets, and a ferocious wind to carry a man's scent and betray his presence.
I can see some bucks chasing does down clear across the canyon, so I'm gonna drop in here. Go get a better look at them. Hopefully there's a big one in the area. The rut's on, so that's a good sign. Just jumped a buck and about 6 does right here. I walk 100 yards and jump 4 more does. They are freaking spooky. I'm gonna have to be really careful. I'm gonna have to take it slow.
The wind not only carries scent, but it puts the deer on edge. It's big country, and a man needs long legs to cover it and seek out where the deer are hiding. And as open as the country looks, the deer can hide in plain sight in it. Laramy has a lot of treeless ground to cross to get where the deer are.
Keep moving on.
By staying in the draws, Laramy hopes to wind his way into the range of this cliffhanger buck. When Laramy comes out of the draw, he's where the deer aren't. They've already pushed on.
Well, I saw a lot of deer today, but it's not that 4.5, 5.5-year-old buck I'm looking for. Just about dark, but there's always tomorrow. You can look around. This is some absolutely gorgeous country. It's different than almost anything I've ever hunted. There's a reason they call it the badlands.
The only way to hunt these badlands is the hardest way there is, with so little cover, and that is by spot and stalk. Suddenly, Mother Nature has a gift for Laramy.
Well, as you can tell, the landscape changed a little bit overnight. We got a few inches of snow and turned it into a winter wonderland. But that's going to help the hunting. We'll be able to see them deer. They'll stick out like a sore thumb. Plus, it should get that rut kicked in. They should start moving a lot. So, go give her heck. Here's the situation. I can still see two does down there, but last time I saw the buck, he was moving to the left. He was going up the ravine. So I think with the way the wind's blowing, the best thing to do is I'm going to drop down, go over this ridge and circle all the way around this knob and come in from the downwind side and hopefully get lucky.
There are deer in sight, but still out of Hawken range, so Laramy has to close the gap.
Got a pretty good buck down here, but there's 11 does all around him. So it's a waiting game. It's about 600 yards away. The only two escape routes are to the left and to the right. They can only go up and down this ravine. I'm going to sit here and wait for them to make a move, and then I'm going to move on them. That's about all I can do right now.
Now it's a waiting game for the big game. Against a fresh, white blanket of snow, the deer stand out like beacons. Now Laramy has to wait for them to make the next move before he can get to Hawken shooting distance.
Well, this is the part that I have the hardest time with when it comes to hunting, is patience.
At last, the deer get up and go the way Laramy expects, except the buck makes an unbelievable turn to scale a sheer rock wall.
I don't even know what to say. We get this awesome buck, got him bedded up, waiting for him to make a move. And I have no clue what happened, but all of a sudden they all decide to get up and take off running. Well, instead of the buck following the does, the buck takes off and freaking tears off up the side of the mountain. Away from us, pretty much. We have no chance.
If you can't laugh, you shouldn't be out here, I guess.
Again, Laramy has deer in sight. And it's time to prime his rifle. They say the loudest noise in nature is a volcano erupting.
What?
But that's a mouse squeak compared to the sound of a misfire with a buck in your sights. Well, Laramy, At least you get to admire the way they run, or in the mule deer's case, the way it bounces. As soon as the deer ducks out of the line of sight behind the ridge, Laramy puts on his running moccasins. Then another buck pops up, drawing Laramy's attention. To get to the top of the hill and into range, Laramy uses the contours of the land to screen his stalk.
Should be right over the top of this point. We'll sneak up as quiet as I can and get to the top and peer over. It should only be 80 yards right there.
Now, will the old smoke pole perform? With the badlands blanketed in white, Laramy suffers a misfire. The buck escapes for the time being, but Laramy's not done, not by half. It's a good buck. Now, will the Hawken ignite?
This is the hardest part about this whole deal is I've got a nice buck bedded down at 80 yards. But I gotta wait for him to stand up to get a shot. It'll really test your patience. We've been sitting here for over an hour. That buck hasn't moved. He's bedded with that doe. I sure hope he decides to move sometime soon, because both my legs are numb.
Keep calm, Laramy. Don't look at those antlers. Look at the deer. Look at the killing spot. Don't think about that misfire. Remember the angle and squeeze. Just inches lower and a shade to the right. It's high-speed loading, but the deer moves too fast and too far. With that deer vanishing into the badlands goes a piece of Laramy's spirit.
We have worked our butts off to get that close to a good deer. This just ain't my year.
Who was it that said they had made many a fine meal out of eating crow? At least for Laramy, climbing back into the mountains he loves, there is tastier fare to hunt for his supper. No, those aren't chicken tracks, but the ruffed grouse that made them will eat just fine.
Grouse dumplings tonight. My favorite. dinner. Well-placed shot, didn't even ruin any meat. Now, these rough grouse, they're the best grouse to eat. If you look at that meat, it's almost white, which is real similar to a chicken. Most of your other grouse, it's really dark meat. These rough grouse, they're a delicacy, boy. I'm excited. I'm gonna eat good tonight.
It's not mule deer, and there's not much of it, but it is sure delicious to a famished hunter. With a full belly, it's time for Sasquatch to dream of other hills and mountains, of new country with new game, and the one animal they say walks like a man.